Finance Committee. Any opening remarks from the town administrator before we get into?
No, just what I wanted to bring up was tonight, one of the only items on the agenda, actually the only items on the agenda is recommendations on the special town meeting warrant. I have all night, I have all the time in the world for the finance committee, I can answer questions, I can print things, we can pull things up on the television if we need to, but I do ask that we keep it relevant to the first phase of the proposed project, the purchase of the building, the renovation of the building. There are plans for the later phases, and we can certainly talk about what the plans are, but there are so many variables at this time that at this point, what the finance committee is being asked to make a recommendation on are the two articles that are in front of us on August 22nd. Anything I can tell you about after that would be part of a plan, but at the end of the day, it would be a guess because there are so many variables involved in something like that. So if we could please stay on track with the phase one of this project. The townspeople are not being asked for a referendum vote that they would vote for every phase of this project from here on out should they approve phase one. It's kind of the opposite of that. We could do it a variety of different ways based on public opinion once we're at that phase. There would be, after phase one, there would be a design phase and a public information and hearing phase with an engineer. Like, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. The intention of the project is not to move our public, our first responders into a rundown building and say, hey, have a great time, now it's your rundown building.
Right,
The
right.
plan is to fix it so that it is up to the standard in which they deserve. We have tried brand new and it was shot down fairly decently a couple of times. The town has been working on this since 1989. That is quite literally my entire life. So that, I'm just asking that we stick to phase one for now. There will be plenty of time to talk about the remainder of the phases, but other than that, it's,
But the remainder of the phases are not, like, we're not saying it's gonna happen in 2 years or 3 years or 5, it could be
No.
in 5 years we'll do phase
Yeah.
2.
And if I heard, sorry, didn't mean to
That's
interrupt.
okay.
If I heard you correctly, further phases will have a voting as well.
yes, further phases would have a vote, and the phase two, right now, the way it looks, we would need a debt exclusion. For the good of the people at home, not an override. A debt exclusion, the temporary one. Take it, it would be a long-term temporary thing, like a mortgage, but the temporary one, not an override.
I guess that for second phase to discuss. That will be a second phase discussion.
Okay, at last week's select board meeting, they have set the warrant for the special town meeting for August 22nd. There are 2 articles being proposed that we need to review tonight for our recommendation as a committee. So I'll read Article 1 for acquisition of 48 Gardner Road. To see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain a parcel of land with any improvements thereon, located at 48 Gardner Road, Hubbardston, containing 5.397 acres more or less, being tax map 05C-060 and tax map 05C-122, and being the property described in the deed recorded with the Worcester South District Registry of Deeds in Book 48509, page 23, for general municipal purposes, including but not limited to public safety purposes, and to accept a deed for said property, and further to transfer, raise, and appropriate and or borrow a sum of money to fund said acquisition and to fund the cost of making improvements to said property, including but not limited to the roof and siding of the building thereto. And further to authorize the select board to enter into all agreements and execute on behalf of the town in all instruments that may be necessary to convenient to carry out the purposes
maybe necessary.
Good.
Necessary or convenient, yeah, convenient.
To carry out the purpose of this article or take any action in relation thereto.
So let me first tell you that the motion on the table on town meeting night will have a number attached to it. The working number, as I put out publicly on the website, based on prevailing wage construction data, is between 1.3 and 1.5 million dollars. That's a $700,000 lump for the purchase of the building, and remaining monies to make it what we're calling weather tight. I am sending out procurement documents for roofing, siding, and window replacement tomorrow. Those documents will be returned by town meeting. So we'll have a much better number to go by the time we vote. For those in attendance, it is at the liberty of the chair, but if you wanted to ask a question and he so chose to call on you, he could do that. And Lou, right before you got here, I had asked, like, we're gonna keep this whole meeting on phase one, cause that's what we're talking about, the purchase and updates of the building. The remainder of the project has too many variables at this time.
And it's a long-term project, it's not a
Correct.
short-term.
Yep.
I do have a question. How you doing?
Name and address.
Lou Gagnon, 1 Worcester Road.
Nice to meet you.
So the building's going up for auction if it's not purchased?
Yes.
Correct.
And when does it go up for auction?
The real estate agent has an auction permit with the town. The contingency on that auction permit is that he lets us know. So if this fell through, which I'm hoping it does not, they would schedule an auction for a time that is convenient for them.
And, I mean, is it a possibility that it could be purchased a heck of a lot cheaper at auction?
No. They are starting it right around where we are getting it. They're starting it at 700,000.
Okay.
So I'm going to be putting out a schedule of what happened here. Long story short, how this got to this point is an email was sent by the landowner to all of the tenants. The fire chief came over, showed me the email. I was talking to the landowner within 3 hours. So after that, we were talking and we begun a conversation in which it ended in a purchase and sale. I had to hold several quick meetings in executive session just to get the temperature of the select board and the public safety building committee on if this was something they wanted to do. It ended up that it was. I do feel regardless of which way this goes, that it was my job as town administrator to look for opportunities like that. Because if I didn't bring that up, I would feel like I wasn't doing my job. Even if the select board, public safety building committee said, oh, we're not interested in that at this time.
How long ago did this start?
4 weeks ago,
Less-
yeah,
Just about a month?
yeah.
Yeah,
Like this was.
it's like buying a house, you know.
Oh, yeah,
It's
listen,
same thing.
Facebook is great.
And,
No, it isn't.
and I had to fight to get the 60 days. They wanted to close in 30 days, but we wouldn't have had enough time to turn it around.
And so, I haven't read anything online, other than people bitching and whining, and some are for it, some against it and stuff, which is great, you know, there's debates going on. It brings out information you might not think of.
I do see, it has been helpful in crafting the frequently asked questions, which we're going to be updating in the next couple days.
Right.
I do ask that people at home and on boards and committees, please read the information that we put out there. You'll be more educated to be against it. Like, just really.
Is there gonna be, information pamphlets of any type that we can pick up at the town office, or?
Yes, but they are not created yet.
Okay, but over the next week or so?
I do intend on making documentation available both electronically and available here at Town
Old
Hall.
school.
Yeah, for the old school.
I like
Additionally,
that.
we will be releasing 2 videos on the status of the police and fire departments early next week. We're just waiting on finalizing those.
What's the time horizon for phase 1 completion, if it's approved?
Fairly quickly, a year. It wouldn't take too long, we could
No.
for.
I also read that, we are financing it using the current budget. Are there any services that are being impacted short term?
No, so what I mean by finance using the current budget, we spend approximately between $22,000 and $23,000 a year renting that warehouse space for the fire department. We would no longer need to pay that. That would be a chunk. Additionally, there is between $70,000 and $90,000 in tenant rental income that comes in annually. I will know those numbers for sure within the next week, because the seller had 10 days from date of signature to get me those agreements. So once those are available, they will be public record. So between those two, we will be able to fund the first leg of phase 1. The current plan as proposed would be to take out a temporary ban, which our financial advisor is suggesting would be between 4 and 4.25%, so it would be approximately $60,000. $60,000 we do with 2 years. In that 2 years, I would hope to be able to figure out what phase 2 looks like, because to get a better term and longer schedule, we would need to roll phase 1 into phase 2. And that type of data will be coming out in the next week. I'm going to have a debt schedule and tax impact calculations coming out potentially tomorrow. I just want to get approval from the Select Board and Public Safety Committee prior to release of documentation.
Can I go ahead, or you?
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
go right ahead.
So if the phase 2 is not voted again by the town, what are the chances that we'll make a profit on phase 1?
If the phase 2 if phase 2 of the project is not eventually passed, the current plan is to obviously not roll the phase 1 into phase 2. We would take out a 10-year loan on the money, which could be almost completely paid for by the rental income. We would likely eventually sell it if we tried phase 2 a couple of times and it didn't fly, which I would hope we would make a return on our investment. That is not the current plan. Like, the town is not interested in being a long-term landlord,
Right.
but there is security in owning an asset. Additionally, by passing phase 1, we secure a location for our fire department. Because there's an option, if this were to go to auction, someone could come in, buy it, hey, I have the money to talk to legal counsel, get out, see ya, I'm
And
building
then when worse
1-bedroom
comes.
apartments, or I'm building whatever. The sky is the limit on what a potential buyer could be.
So then we wouldn't have a base fire department, we'd lose it.
And we're not trying to use scare tactics by
No.
any means, like, there's a good chance that wouldn't happen.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, there is a question.
Is there a contingency if you lose the tenant, for the tenant income? Is there a plan B for that?
Currently, not really. It depends where we are in the project. The project phases would be fairly quickly. We would move the parts of the town offices out of the library basement, because that opens the library up to millions of dollars in grant funding that they are not currently able to access due to a weird state law that states that we cannot have a library library share a building with anyone else? I asked legal counsel, like, what if we built a beautiful building and there was a catwalk touching it to a library? And said, yep, no grant funding in certain ways. Like, there is obviously grants for the library no matter what, but there is a laundry list of grant opportunities that would be unlocked by not having town hall in the basement.
But that grant
With-
money doesn't default to paying the bill at
Nope.
58.
But that's one of the first plans, once there's space, we would even potentially utilize the second floor. But to answer your question directly, no, there is not a contingency plan on if the tenants were to leave. I have spoken with them, they all have brand new leases.
So if other buildings were to get grant once we move it there, will that save something in our budget?
Potentially. It would either save something in our budget or save us from having to utilize money that could come from the budget or
To make
capital
repairs
lines. Yeah.
on the current buildings, makes sense.
So at an earlier, last, week's, meeting, you said that, the building would cost, well, $700,000, that was the first price without renovation, and that the $23,000 would cover the mortgage on that,
Almost all of it.
almost all of it, which is, so we've already been paying that, now we're
Yeah.
paying ourselves.
We're over $500,000, I don't know the exact date we've moved in, but we've paid over $500,000 to be in this building already.
Okay, so most of the money is, well.
There is not a rent to own provision on the table, so.
So 700,000, are we, sorry, maybe I missed it somewhere, how are we paying that, amount for purchase,
If we
$700,000?
would take out a bond anticipation notice,
Got it.
it would be ahead of a future permanent bond, a permanent borrow. It would be my intention to roll this phase one ban in with phase two and spread it out over 30 to 40 years. Because there are USDA loans that offer incredibly competitive interest rates at a 40-year term.
So-
The opposite, the kind of downside of that is it's 40 years and that's a real long time.
So if I understand you correctly, and I'm sorry, just wanna make sure I understand you correctly, that 23,000 that we will save from the fire department will basically pay slowly towards the purchase of the building.
Yep. And any tenant rental
Rental.
income that we were to receive.
But-
Let's not forget that there will be utilities, like there's
Right.
going to be utilities, there's going to be an operating cost, like this is a strategic investment. This is not a way to get a free building.
Hey,
Like,
hence the questions.
there's going to be cost to this, associated with this. Our maintenance bills are going to go up, our electricity bills are going to go up. It is my intention to look into solar options, but that is, at the end of the day, everything I look into is the liberty and choice of either the select board or town meeting. Though I am simply doing the legwork.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the decisions are made by those elected by the townspeople of Hubbardston and the townspeople of Hubbardston.
Solar has a chance of grant as well, right? The green grant maybe, like if you were to purchase
Yes,
solar.
solar, yep, the Green Communities grant that is currently working on the library would be something that we could very easily transition into utilizing over there. The ADA grant that we are about to begin working on an ADA plan, they're going to be all over us because we haven't had an ADA report or compliance exam since 2007, and we're working on that right now.
I just wanna trace the 23,000 allotted for the rent that we're paying now. Where in the books is that gonna be located? Does it go back to the general fund to
It's
pay for the new?
under fire. We would utilize it one way or another, whether it be a line item transfer to pay for certain debt or a line item transfer to pay for utilities. Our first bill would not be due until FY '26, a year from now.
On the building?
Should phase one approve.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
okay.
pay one annual payment, and it's always a year after the initial closing.
So it doesn't go into the general fund, we don't, it stays within the
If
fire
it was
department?
not spent in the entirety of the year on utilities or something at the fire department level, or transferred and spent out of debt line,
Okay.
or transferred it, or whatever, if it was not spent, yes, like all free cash, like all unexpended budgetary items, it would roll over into free cash and come back to us as.
So we would use that to maintain or whatever,
Yeah.
plow or,
We have a plow service.
we still have to pay him. And we may need more help. So, okay.
Gentleman has a question.
Yes, sir.
So, phase one rolling into phase two, 30 to 40 year loan. They have a lease. When, they're not gonna be there for 30 years. So eventually that's gonna be, those businesses
Yeah.
are gonna be gone,
That's the plan,
right?
Mm.
yeah.
So if they're gone, we lose the revenue, where they go, and they might not stay in town. They might even try to break their lease prior to, if they find a new place for their business, thus you're losing that
The
revenue from them.
Which would be fine. The intent here is to build a public safety building and municipal building.
And so, so the 30-year, we'll just say 30-year loan, is,
To get the 30 to 40 year loan, we would have to go for a debt exclusion. Not an override, a debt exclusion. Therefore, it would be the taxpayers that would be paying for that. And the tax impact I have calculated, I'm running it by a few people just to make sure that there are no errors in my math or in my just
so
using a
that
computer.
wouldn't be like the 23,000 we pay a year already to rent the space for the next 30 years,
No, that would not cover what could potentially be $7.8 million loan.
okay. So, phase one.
Is
you would-
covered.
You would get the 700,000, blah, blah, blah.
Plus roof and siding and
Yeah.
some money to start planning for phase two.
Yeah, and then, but then, yes, I understand phase two is adding the building
Yeah,
and
phase two
blah,
is the
blah.
lion's share of this project.
Yeah,
That-
which
and
we're
that-
not
and
talking about.
We're not talking about right now.
Cause
But-
it would be at least 2 years.
Yeah, we'll have,
Yeah.
we'll probably start talking about that, say phase one proves on the 22nd, maybe by the spring, by next summer, we have a conversation starting towards that, and the community would be involved, there would be opportunities for everyone to get involved, there would be opportunities for people to meet with the building engineer, but that's all phase two, there are so many variables on that, like,
And how many estimates did you get for roofing and siding?
they aren't in yet. The procurement documents start tomorrow and are due 2 weeks from tomorrow. And we're sending it to everybody on the state bid list, and I'm gonna send it to every regional contractor. The deal here is you have to be willing to pay prevailing wage. Everyone can come and bid. It is an open, sealed bid, but following the rules of the procurement law in the state of Massachusetts, but you have to be willing to pay prevailing wage. And I know that's a hurdle
So
for some.
so you don't know those numbers yet?
No, but we will know before town meeting. And we intentionally did that, like,
And it needs new windows.
potentially.
And
I'm
so-
I'm getting the price of windows, but we don't know the deal. The building inspection, which report will also be public, is next week, early the week after.
And so, I mean, ideally, when you do the siding, you wanna put windows in.
Correct.
So,
Which is why
It
we're
needs
getting
windows.
the quote for,
yeah, so, I
It
mean,
needs them.
what's that?
It
It's
needs-
a 30-year-old building,
It,
so.
yeah,
Yeah,
it needs
so-
windows.
I
I
mean,
mean,
but-
you're gonna save on the heat.
But you're doing siding, you're doing
Right.
windows at the
Yeah.
same time, so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just something
which
that.
we're getting the quotes. We'll know how much that would be.
And then, I know would be phased. Is there any type of, schematics or visuals of
I am not an engineer.
any,
I could not draw, like, I'll draw you what I'm thinking in my head, but it's not gonna be pretty. Like,
But no, I didn't know if
Like generating
somebody on
the-
a, you know, if anybody on a computer has just put in the dimensions and then the dimensions of the additional building, et cetera, so that.
I did a dimensions report, but it's solely math. Like, I did the square footage of everything we need, minus 15% for things like walls and doors and corners that you can't actually utilize, and everything works out. From a math square footage standpoint, it works. I know a lot of people are asking about what we would do with the apparatus, the fire trucks, the cruisers. The main part of that is down the road. Like, we would eventually be putting a metal addition on to house everything. But there is belief that by utilizing some of that warehouse space the fire department currently occupies and flipping it sideways facing High Street, that we can fit a majority of our apparatus in there right from the beginning after phase 2 renovations.
And there is
And
5 acres.
and that's a
yeah.
large part of that cost.
How much for
Like, it
building?
doesn't cost
Stand-
millions of dollars to do office renovations.
That would be standard size apparatus, not custom.
Yeah, the custom apparatus would need to be placed in the larger structure after phase 3, and it is my hope to have phase 3, the $500,000 to $600,000, completely grant funded.
Is there any backup plans if no grants come through? Cause technically, that's, you can't
Hustle.
100% guarantee
The
any
the grants are coming out like crazy though now. There's a lot of potential for grants.
Potential.
Yeah, but it looks
And no
pretty
one
good.
That's
knows
like
the future.
gambling, that's like going out to a gas
It's a
station
little
buying
bit
a
better.
scratch ticket.
A little bit better.
You know.
Slightly better than the scratch ticket approach,
Right.
but we're open to anything.
You know, I didn't know if you guys had thought up of backup
So,
plans, say
at
next,
the-
you have 5 grants you're trying to get and only 2 of them come through.
Right.
So at the very least, backup plan would be hustle to get the grants and apply, go for things like state earmarks through our state senator and state representative, which we were able to acquire one just this year to fund the remainder of the Hubbardston Center School boiler project that the town approved $50,000 for last year. Then there are certainly opportunities to apply for ADA grants and green communities grants, and there's all sorts of opportunities per us being part of the state of Massachusetts. There's also opportunities to apply for federal grants. I would also seek the assistance of grant writers. I will look into what that means. Like I said, that's after this. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, because if this does not pass at town meeting, then it will
So
be
phase
in
1
vain.
is the only thing getting voted
Yes.
on.
Yep.
Correct. In order to basically qualify for a lot of these grants is you need to have a shovel-ready project. And what that means is you have to have engineering designs, bid specs, and every drawing's ready to go. Because the federal government, or even the state government, wants to see that the community's committed to spend the money regardless of whether you get the money from them or not.
And-
So we've already bought into the project, we are committed to the project, and that's how you're gonna be able to leverage that to get federal funding. And that's how we did Main Street. We
Right.
had
I
to
think
do,
the
we had to
biggest
do the
curi-
design on Main Street to get the federal money to do Main Street, so, same idea.
My sign's still in front of my house, so.
Are you open to non-financial questions?
Open to anything.
So, in the page for the project, the first thing mentioned is enhanced public safety and emergency response to meet public safety standards. Do you have any measure of like enhanced, how much response time will be increased for what percentage of the population?
First and foremost, if they can't get it out of the garage bay, that's gonna severely damper their impact on public safety. Second, the time it takes them to get there from station 2 to station 1, when seconds matter, that really, Seth is a public safety professional by trade, so maybe he has some.
Yeah, on the fire side of the world, you know, from them coming from 48 Gardner Road back down to Main Street, you're probably looking at a 5-minute delay, where if they were in the same building, they are immediately dispatched, they gear up and they're out the door. The goal is to be, you know, from the time of the tone to out the door, you're supposed to be out the door within 60 seconds. So you've already lost 5 minutes driving down the road and basically, you know, going through the whole process. So yes, that will make a significant impact. I know the police chief has talked about, you know, the efficiencies and the federal requirements through the Police Reform Act of what they are required to handle as far as prisoners and evidence security. So there's a lot of things on that nature. But if we own the property, like you said, if we have plans, both police and fire are the target enriched area where they will get federal funding for projects. So that's a good sign.
That number helps, thank you.
Yeah. You had a question?
Yeah, I had a question. By the way, Tony Stokes, 5 Wall Street. So how many phases are there total? 3. You mentioned 7.8 million.
And we're not locked into the phases as they're drawn today.
So, is there gonna be a more complete vision presented for a vote? Like, if you're gonna say, we're gonna just grab this now, and we'll wing it as we go, it kind of sounds that way. Like, we're not really sure how we're gonna go, what we're gonna go. Are you gonna be able to present like a vision of, we're gonna buy it, and if we do everything as planned, here's the building after phase 3 is complete, this is why it's so valuable to the town, this is what justifies $7-point-something million. Because that's a lot of unknown hope in the future for something we're not even sure what we're voting for, so to speak. You know,
So we do have, there's a phased approach, it's all over the internet, I do have that, but in terms of a photo or a schematic, we're not gonna be able to get that for residents at this time.
I'm not
That-
saying a photo, I'm
that-
just saying like a presentation of, all right,
Yeah.
here's phase 1, here's what will be accomplished, here's phase 2, what will be accomplished.
That's on the
phase
website
3.
already.
And it's very clearly.
Yeah.
That's on the web.
I didn't find it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was
But we're only
thinking too.
Must be
focused
hidden.
on,
Phase 1 right now, yeah.
Phase 1,
No, but I
buy
mean-
building, put roof
Right.
on building, siding on building, ADA compliance, and plans.
But what I'm
Make-
saying
make
is,
the
to get
investment.
behind phase 1.
Yeah.
Right.
What is 2 and 3?
Yeah.
Because if I'm gonna be your
Phase
supporter.
2 is the
Yeah.
lion's share of the work, is
Okay.
to do the updates, get police and fire in there. So the way it's working in most people's imaginations, I don't know if you know the building, is the town hall and community center would be in the middle, flanked by the police and fire department, who would have a apparatus bay, garage, and sally port in the back, pointing out to High Street. Additionally, on the second floor, there would be second floor offices, a kitchen, shared training space, all of that kind of. Showers, and we would be able to manned a male and female restroom, like we would be able to, and obviously all of that is
So
about as
with-
good as the breath I use.
Being that the property has wetland, with the kitchen and the showers
Mhm.
and all the expanded occupancy by humans, are you gonna be able to expand the septic system?
There is a
accordingly?
public water supply and public septic already on, it's about, what would you say, is that 8 years old at this point?
I bet you the septic's probably 12 years old.
And,
Yeah.
and it is significantly above what they have in there right now, and there is a good chance that the footprint of the regular everyday occupants of that building, let's take out if we had a big meeting and everybody was really there, is likely going to be less than the footprint of the building now.
Yeah, the actual live load of people working there.
And I guess that's why getting all these public municipal operations there will be better coordinated, and that's what you have mentioned
Yeah.
about like more efficient.
More
and
efficiency,
different-
yes, yep.
Yeah, because right now I'm traveling between the buildings.
Yeah. And then you also have, you know, once the fire department moves out of the Main Street location, that building can be, you know,
Yeah, rent that,
deemed
it can be
surplus
demolished.
property,
We have
whatever,
options.
sold, and then you're saving the energy costs and, of that building as well.
Is
So-
that owned by the town, the current
Yes,
building?
yeah.
Yeah, we can,
Yeah.
that will roll into.
So, just some history on this project, back in 2004, the existing building owner approached the town in 2004 for the town to purchase the property. at the time, they wanted $1.85 million for the building. Trudy O'Donnell was the administrative assistant at the time. We hired an engineer to do a feasibility study on space needs analysis, and it was determined that all the town offices and public safety building would easily fit into that existing property with more space than we needed, with a steel Butler building on the back end for apparatus. So it's already conceptually been done, but again, it's 2004. But again, if we have some available money after the roof and siding's done, some engineering can be done, we can come up with a conceptual plan, hey, this is what our vision, and that would be the intent. Yes, sir?
Bill Mayrows, 59 Ragged Hill Road. A question on the loan, the amount is gonna be like 1.3, 1.5, or just 700,000?
It would be 1.3, 1.5.
Okay.
As I have mentioned to the firefighters and the police department, we would never want to just buy the building. I understand there is issues with the building. We're aiming to make the situation better, not to become slumlords.
And you're saying that even if the tenants were to leave and we lose the $60,000 or $70,000 or $80,000, and I'm guessing we're losing property taxes also? If we take over the building?
Correct. Yeah.
Even if that all happened, the $23,000 that we're saving from the fire department rental would cover that loan?
In phase one, yes.
Okay.
Because we would eventually have to elongate the loan, like we can only do that band for a short period of time, 2-3 years. Then we'll either have to permanent finance that loan over 10 years, which would be covered by roundabout that number. It'll be a little more, but as I said, there will be operating costs. And the tenants do have a lease. And the intent is to build a public safety building and municipal operation in there. First and foremost, a public safety building. Like, I'm reading the comments at home, so I understand what people are saying. This is first and foremost a public safety building. We are trying to solve other problems at this time because the space would permit, and the investment would permit us to utilize it to create a domino effect, which would positively impact the library, positively impact the senior center, give us opportunities to develop across from the Curtis Rec Field into whatever the townspeople want. You wanna talk about commercial development, let's talk about commercial development. You wanna talk about senior housing, let's talk about senior housing. You wanna talk about rec fields, let's talk about rec fields. But it opens up the opportunity to develop across from the Curtis Rec Field as well. So it's kind of the start of a domino effect.
And what would happen to the old fire station?
Well, it'd have to be,
We'd have to be out of there and
Demolish it?
maybe
potentially,
a nice park bench area.
like it's not a safe building per se.
Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks?
And once
With
the current
the
upgrades are
soil
done for the
probably
new building, how long do you believe it will be set for before it needs a major investment to do anything?
30 years, 40 years.
And the Route 68, across from the rec field, that property we have, how many acres?
I'd have to get you that answer.
Oh, okay, all right, but,
Do you know?
No.
it's, but
The
it could be
It
developed,
could be developed.
so
There would-
the,
Something could potentially, or we keep it as town, open space, rec fields.
right,
Yeah, but, yeah, you could potentially do a public, quasi-public,
well, we're
private
looking for
partnership.
more senior housing
Correct, yep.
or,
Yep. Yeah, that could be done there.
Yeah, and that would be a conversation had in between a number of committees
Yep.
and the general public and the interests of the people.
right,
And if we wanted to commercially develop it, we would have to do zoning revisions, but
right.
knowing what we're trying to do, and if that were what we were trying to do, which I hope, cause then we can bring in more revenue, the hope would be to take places like that and change the zoning to impact a area of town that already has 6,000 cars driving by a day and not impact any space that is full of rural charm and character. Like, we want to keep what Hubbardston is. If
Right.
we can enhance it in areas that don't affect that
You get rid of some signs.
vibe. I've made more move on the sign than anyone else, so.
I mean, a whole bunch of them. I, before I forget though, on the safety thing,
Mhm.
I talked to all the firefighters, and, I don't ever wanna be house two. Okay, I voted 7 years ago, I moved to town, the safety complex was up for vote, first meeting I've ever been to, first time I was ever handed a card, lived in a city, so I
Yep,
didn't know.
yep.
And, I voted yes, I didn't mind $300 a year,
Mhm.
what, that was, I think 280, whatever the hell it was. But the best reference for safety is the fact that they don't have showers. If they go to a fire and then they're covered in soot and dirty, they go home to shower.
Mhm.
If a call comes in and my house is on fire, I get Rutland
Mhm.
coming to my house because they're at home showering. And it's gonna take them, 10, 15, whatever minutes to get back to
For
the
the
station.
purpose of helping you, if you don't know this, Seth is the chief of the Rutland Fire Department.
Well, exactly.
Like,
So you'd be coming to One Worcester Road instead of somebody that could easily be
Sure.
dispatched
Don't they have
a
showers?
quarter mile
Yeah,
up the
one-
street.
One shower.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
so like, to me, having adequate facilities
Yep.
is more important. And yeah, money is money, and some people have it, some people don't, some people live on a tight budget, some people don't. It sucks, either way.
Yep.
But again, I don't wanna be house number two.
Right.
And there was occasions this past winter that they were out and other calls came, I mean, I follow all that stuff.
Oh, sure.
And it's just, it's just something that nobody wants a death in town because they were house number two. I mean, it's just,
Yep.
that's just me, so. And sorry I'm asking all weird
No,
questions.
no.
I can't go to the meeting tomorrow night, I'm gonna be out of town, so like,
Yes, sir?
Yeah, regarding the information on the webpage, I had trouble finding it myself, and I'm pretty computer savvy.
I changed the widget.
Okay.
I removed it, and I was trying to be really cool.
Okay.
And then in the middle of the night, it told me that it disabled for mobile devices. So
Okay.
I took down the widget and replaced it with text. So if you're saying that you weren't able to find the FAQs for a little while,
Yeah.
that is fixed.
Maybe something on the home page.
And we are doing that as
Okay.
well.
The other thing, I read all that information, including the questions. I don't know how clear it was that the vote coming up is just for phase one. Maybe I misread something.
And
It's right.
that has been taken into consideration, because I'm currently rewriting the FAQs with a lot of what was brought up on Facebook and additional information, and that was certainly one of the biggest questions asked, after what is the tax impact
Right.
and what about the businesses?
Yeah, and I think a little more details about what you discussed here tonight about the loan or the bond, and that it's gonna be covered
Yeah.
completely, there's gonna be no.
All of that will be coming out
Okay.
in the next couple of
Because
in
I read the
next couple of
comments to
days.
it,
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I am simply making a proposal. It is up to the select board and the people to take it and either bring it further or say no, hey, go back, think of something else. So,
Yes, sir?
So there's, this is sort of topic, but with it, I guess. Is the finance committee the people who help with the contract we have with Quabbin Region School District?
No.
No, because
We're only a recommending body.
I mean, right now, the town of Hubbardston has X revenue.
Yep.
And it doesn't really grow much. And, you know, there's a house that gets put up here and there, not really too many. The school, however, seems to continuously go like this with the money they get from the town. And it's exponentially growing over the last few years. We have you know, certain percent that the town can go up. Something needs to be done so that the school doesn't take, cause we're already cutting stuff in the town.
Right.
We're cutting back on, you know, money spent. I know the police had like 50,000 taken away from them,
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. What's to prevent the over stealing, is what I call it, the school steals all our money. If they take so much money, you know, how are we gonna fund this project? Because I don't see them slowing down. The percentage that they get every year since COVID, I mean, what was last year, 6 point something?
9.13.
Yeah, it was.
And you're preaching to the choir here.
No, I know, but I'm just,
I know
it's
you
a
know
concern,
that.
it's a
Yeah.
concern
It is.
with taking out a big loan, having everybody paying more in taxes, and continuously being pillaged by the school.
Yeah.
And, you know, they have it just, does a project like this feasibly even work?
Yes. But what you have to remember is elections have consequences, and lobbying has consequences, and when you have the opportunity to talk to your state senator, your state representative, saying, even though they know, I write them letters and emails all the time on behalf of this town, saying, hey, the schools are really taking a toll on our public services budget, like, what do we do? And they say, oh, it's everywhere, and so elections have consequences. Lobbying your public officials can work sometimes. I am hoping that in the next year, we are able to work with the new superintendent and the business administrator. They are opening up the bylaws in the next year, and the select board does have all intentions of being part of that conversation, because we want to ensure that every opportunity we get to be fair, we take, but
So can we put cause
no,
there's a
we
new
have a cap,
contract,
we have a
right?
cap, they don't have a cap.
Yeah, they need a cap.
So we have Proposition 2.5 that is stopping us from going above 2.5%. They
For the
do.
town?
Yes, the town.
Yes.
They do not have a cap. It is something that has been brought up on the state level. Municipal associations have reached out and said, hey, how about you don't count them towards our cap, or hey, let's figure out something, and they are working on it, but.
But with the renewal of the contract coming up,
Mhm.
you know, next year, I don't know exactly when it is.
Yeah. Neither do I, cause they can call it, as long as they call it within the year it states, like it doesn't say May 7th.
And so, you know, that could stop the bleeding if,
Yep.
you know, I don't even know how that gets voted on or passed. You know, if it's the select board,
It's your school committee
School
representatives.
committee.
and so,
Being one member of 5-town district.
What needs to be done is showing up at town meetings like we're going to have.
I go to every
Our
town
big,
meeting.
no, but I mean our
Voice my
big
opinion.
ones where we've opposed or what, we go, everybody shows up, there's 150 people there and we vote it down.
I voted no.
So,
I went to the town meeting, I got
no,
up
but
a
I
few
mean,
times and.
that's, what I'm saying is that's what we need to do to the school.
I believe you guys
Because-
passed a microphone to each other at the last
Yeah.
town
That's,
meeting.
yeah, but, you
Yeah.
know, that's what needs to be done, we have to focus and get
Because that
strength in
affects
numbers.
this project. I mean, in the long term,
affects every year.
that does affect this project,
Right.
and just knowing that contract is coming up next year,
Right.
you know, something needs to be
Yep.
done,
Right.
about
Yes.
that as far as to.
So it can be done,
To slow the bleeding.
it's just a lot of work
Good, Tony.
and support.
Odd question as well, but general financing. Is there any kind of goodwill grant or anything from recipients of Quabbin Water Shed product, we'll call it, to the towns that have to go through so much to make sure they have a clean glass of water. You know what I mean, like
Yes.
Boston's budget, or whoever's the recipient of the water,
Yep.
you know, we're nothing, we're a drop in the bucket.
So we
Right.
get about $390,000 annually in what is called pilot money, payment in lieu of taxes, for the amount of state-owned land that we have in
Yeah.
Watershed District.
Yeah.
There is currently legislation, well, not so currently, because it's going to be ending very, very soon. There is legislation that was pending and likely will be pending again. I have already got it on instruction by the select board to seek from Senator Durant and Representative Berthium to get Hubbardston into that legislation, because it was very much focused on the towns that were abutting the Quabbin properly, but it should be spread out to a further demographic, including all of the communities that are in the Ware watershed region in general. The bill would essentially tax the Boston Municipal Water Company, whatever they're called, pennies or quarters, percentages of a penny on everybody's water bill, depending on how much water you used. And to them, they would barely see it, but to the towns out here, that would be life-changing.
Yeah.
And that's something that is being worked on by a variety of people, and I hope it flies. But you have to remember where a majority of the politicians are from, out there, so.
Back to phase one.
Oh, this has all been about phase one. You know, we are not taking anything outside of phase one.
Yeah, I mean,
Phase one and phase one only,
Yeah.
that's what
so
we're
when
going for.
when are the you're getting, within 10 days, you'll have estimates on the roof and siding?
Within 14, they're due 2 weeks from tomorrow. So
That's not much time before the actual vote.
I'm aware, but we could either have it or not. Like I had to hustle to write these quite large documents and
Yeah.
to get them out, like
So
we're.
we'll have them a week before the meeting.
We're just making it to get it, like much more wiggle room and we wouldn't have made it at all.
The vote's the 22nd of August.
Yep.
It can't be the following Thursday?
We're on a schedule,
Yeah.
tight cause we're purchasing a property,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
And
dated.
Our financial advisors are worried about how tight it will be between town meeting and
Potential closing
the
date.
closing date of September 20th already. Should it pass,
Yeah.
we have to go that route.
It'll be hard with no additional information on costs and everything.
And there will be additional information on
Yeah.
cost and everything.
There will be in 2 weeks.
Line item type thing on the, $7 million.
No,
Phase one.
This is not,
No.
is
No,
it?
exactly.
not-
So that's what I'm saying.
we're not doing $7
This is
million.
phase one.
No, I know, but that's what I'm
Seven,
saying.
it
It's
might
gonna,
be-
it's gonna be hard to get phase one to pass, I think, without having the financial, everything to be able to be presented, you know what I'm saying? It seems.
Well, we can't-
It seems like it's too short amount of time to.
You can't predict the future,
No.
but right now, we have an opportunity, as we have in the past 50 years I've been around. And the opportunity is always struck down, and we lost.
But the biggest
So
thing.
that's why we're where we are now.
He's gonna have an estimate on tax increase. I mean, my taxes went up $750 last year, from last year to this year.
Right.
I mean, just 1 year went up $750. So, I mean, what the hell's another few hundred or whatever, jeez.
It's definitely impacting on the.
And I have low costs, high costs on everything, but it is what it is, that's.
With your estimating.
But if we
though-
don't go forward
Right.
now, if we don't go forward now, you won't have fire and police. You just won't. I mean, they can only
It's gonna be
sustain.
regional.
Yeah, well,
I know. Oh, I know.
you know, we have to take care of the town employees.
I'm
And
totally
we've
for,
left them,
I'm totally
we've
for a
left them
safety
out
complex.
in this building. It's
I'm
They-
totally for a
yeah.
safety complex.
So,
It's a
you
matter
know,
of
it's about
information.
the town, it's about, you know, our employees. And if you don't take care of your employees, they leave,
Oh, I know.
which we've had a lot of.
Yeah, and as I've told people, this voting for phase one is not a referendum vote saying, we are going to support every little bit of this. We're still gonna have to work hard
Right.
and propose the right things and hear from the right people to make sure that we propose the right things.
And what out-of-pocket cost potentially could there be for phase one for residents of the town?
At this time, nothing.
Because everything is covered by the 23,000 plus the rent
Mhm.
of the tenants.
Right.
And one of the tenants has a 2-year lease,
Yes.
just renewed, so,
And mine's 5.
yeah, so technically, the rollover phase two would be prior to the 2-year lease ending.
That would be the hope.
And so that would offset and the new thing would all, but just remember that if you price out a 100 by 100 steel building or whatever, 200 feet by 100-foot steel building now, but it's not gonna be in it for 5 years, you better add a lot of cost to it.
I know.
And so,
We hope to be rich by then.
You're making my point.
I'm just, yeah.
Right.
And so, just so for the estimate
Yeah.
that you're gonna be proposing to the town of the possible tax increase.
Oh, these documents all over them say based on 2024 values, based on 2024 values, for discussion purposes only. Like, I don't want anyone to think that I'm
Yeah.
pretending to be a fortune teller.
Yeah.
I'm just doing the footwork.
But it just, yeah, I mean, I've had my own business for 16 years now. And I typically will tell people things are gonna cost more
Yeah.
than they do. And then if it costs less, they save money.
But we're looking at 2 years of no tax increase on this project.
Exactly.
It's a big deal.
Is there any way to put a contingency in where, like we're being asked for phase one voting, right? And there's a potential somewhat vague plan for the future. Can it be put in so that if the townspeople, for example, say, this is going off the rails, and now the new estimate, we're ready for phase three, and it's 14 million, come to find out. But they say, you signed up when you voted for phase one. Is there some sort of legal contingency they can put in where, let's say, 2,500 signatures could bring it to a vote, or I don't know how it works, but could a number of signatures bring it to a vote to actually sell the building off? Like, we want out, this is getting crazy. You know, can the people retain some sort of?
So, your contingency plan is town meeting and voting, but if phase one were to pass on our worst day, we fixed up a building that was in a state of great disrepair and secured a home for our fire department
Yeah.
on our worst day,
With just phase one?
just phase one.
Okay.
And police? No,
No, the
not yet,
police are on
because
the other side.
So you're saying phase two could be voted down, and yet we're doing good for our town?
Right.
Correct.
With the fire department?
we're still saving money.
We're still saving money.
Because we're not paying rent.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, that's better.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Make
It's
sure you
really
say
a-
that at the
a win-
gazebo, cause I
win.
know you won't be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna be at the gazebo.
Saturday,
Yeah.
it's a weekend thing, so Saturday, everybody can go. I expect 3,000 people at the rec field on Saturday.
I'll be able to
Do
hear
you-
it from my
Do you have a
house.
hint on what's the demand on the building, like, you know, if the auction was to happen, do you know how?
They didn't love the fact that I asked for them to cancel the auction, like,
But they did negotiate.
but they
Right.
did negotiate.
They agreed to
Oh,
the
they
price.
did negotiate, that was my another question.
They agreed to the terms.
Well, when you get a solid price
Yeah.
in an auction, you
But they started at nine and some change, I started at 6. We had to.
Yeah.
Great job.
yeah, it is a good job.
Yeah,
Alright, so
that's
we've-
for more than 8.
We discussed for an hour.
Yeah.
Can I I get a motion to, recommend Article 1 for town meeting?
Motion.
I'll second.
Second.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Alright. Article 2, see if the town will vote to purchase, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to amend the general bylaws, Chapter 4, Section 6, departmental revolving funds by adding a new revolving fund for the property located at 48 Garden Road for the purpose of managing tenant rent and associated expenditures, to authorize the town administrator to expend from such fund for property maintenance, utilities, repairs, and other related expenses, to set the total amount that may be expended from such fund at $125,000 annually, and to authorize the town administrator to provide an annual report of the fund's activities to the select board and finance committee or take any relation thereto.
So
Okay.
what this does is it creates the bank account that we can utilize to accept rent, pay for utilities, and sets a cap so that we can't run away with it. Like, you can spend $125,000. If that wasn't enough, and I do believe it would be, we could go to town meeting again and request an addition, but it would hope that that would be enough, and so this establishes the revolving account and sets the cap. Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes, sir.
Who has authority to spend from that account?
Town administrator,
Only?
with the select board approval.
With select board approval.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, so basically, as the bills come in, his office would basically process the bills for payment, things of that nature.
It's like any other department.
It's any other.
Not really,
rent comes in.
because it's
It's
allowed to
not
roll
revolving.
over year
Unlike
after year,
those
so
that-
any
Unused.
remaining funds in that account, July 30th will continue
Would
into next.
continue, would not fall into free
Yeah.
cash.
So,
Got it. Yeah.
for some reason, we collected more than $125,000, anything over the $125,000 would go
Carry
back,
forward.
would go to the general fund.
Oh, okay.
And you'd only, the maximum that ever,
Got it.
anything could ever be in there would be $125,000.
But for other department, it's a different case, it rolls
Yep.
over.
Correct.
Other departments have a regular expenditure account
Yep.
where if they do not spend, it rolls over into the
Yeah.
general fund and becomes free cash.
Yeah, there's only a handful of departments that have this type of account, like the planning board, conservation,
And pretty much anyone that accepts permits.
yeah. Yeah.
That has
For engineering,
income,
for, yeah,
Because
for
you may
engineering.
have to give a refund, like,
Yeah.
and it's real tough to kind of deal in currency with the just expenditure account only. That's why we also have revenue accounts, so there's two sides of the municipal account book. This is the same account and allows in and out.
I'll try to understand more of the report. In lieu of time.
Any questions from the public on this? Pretty straightforward. Any questions from the committee? Can I get a recommendation on Article 1? A motion to place Article 1 favorably?
Let's say Article 1.
I'm sorry, Article 2, sorry.
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know Lou did have a question at
Oh,
the
I'm
end,
sorry.
at the
We'll be
end
happy
of when
to.
we were talking about Article 1. I have no opposition to answering your question, whatever it may be, as long as it's about phase 1.
Well, you mentioned solar panels,
Yep.
and if you're gonna have a brand new roof put on a building, it makes sense to have a storage cell and panels put on. I know, like, National Grid literally just ran out of money for, Mass Save, and so they're requesting, you know, how many billions of dollars again. But, to have a self-sufficient building, electric wise, the investment, I think, would be worth, because you can get grants
Yeah.
for it.
And it's something we're gonna look into. I'm going to call a number of companies, but like I said, I don't want to spend too much work time
No, yeah.
on all of this
Right.
until
I
I
just-
have the go-ahead.
I thought of it when you said solar panels, and I
Yep.
was like,
And-
absolutely, the sun comes out right over there, you know.
Yeah, no, we would look into that. I stopped a guy at the gas station and I said, hey, are people still doing free solar panels? He said, yeah, call me. And
Okay.
so we'll look into
Then
it.
nothing's free.
Yeah, nothing's free.
Yeah, no,
We'll
It
look
still
into it.
costs
It
a
would
lot of
be
money.
something that I would think the town would purchase.
Absolutely, we'll look into it.
Not lease and
No, it would,
panels
it
from
would
a
likely
company.
be a Green Communities deal.
Yeah, well, yeah, once we got the stretch code, we had for all four parts of the green community. So, you know, I mean, we should be utilizing that
Yep.
to whatever advantage we can.
Any further discussion?
Sir.
Okay. Any comments? Okay.
Good job.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I said.
At 7:05.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.